Dead Zone and other things related for the first half an hour, and then at 30:30 Alessio's going to come and join us, and we'll do Kings of War. Warpath might blur a bit, but we'll do Kings of War at 1:30, about 15 minutes at the end of that. Is that okay with everyone? And so we've got Jake here for the first half an hour. We'll do questions. If there's no questions forthcoming, I'll start rambling. We'll start bickering.
One question, please.
In the Dreadball, if the robot gets the same car for going off through choice or injury, do they revert back to a jack, or does he stay what position he was in?
Stays in whatever he is.
Oh, okay.
He's got to do effort to get back to that. But no, stays in whatever he is. It's only at the end of the game you reset him to jacks.
What happens?
I actually knew that.
Talk back to Dreadball. What happens if the player's got the ball and he goes off his own hex for leaving the pitch?
It scatters from the hex just before you go off.
And is that
you can't carry the ball off?
Is that turnover or?
We had this one in the FAQ and I can't remember. I know it scatters because you can't carry it off. I would imagine it's a turnover if you walk off of it and it scatters off you.
Right.
Because you have lost the ball. You have the ball and you've lost it.
Yep.
But I don't recall ever seeing you try and do it.
No, I just.
You're a bit too scared. Okay. At least they like guns, that's what they like.
Okay.
Was it an intentional decision to make the Dread Zone mechanics similar to Dreadball, so people can easily learn both games as you like?
Well, it was. We tried a whole bunch of other things, and then came round to the decision that actually it was very much not broken and didn't really need fixing, and actually worked very well. So it also gives you sort of house style, which is nice every now and again. Sort of a reflection of this. We knew that lots of people who were going to play. Which one is it? Dead Zone, that one. We're going to play, or at least be vaguely familiar with Dreadball, so I thought that was a good way of getting people, again, even quicker access to understand how it works. It's not exactly the same. There's a number of tinkerings I've done with it, and I think that it's a good starting point, but it's fun to sort of take it different directions when it needs to. I mean, the armour, for example, works completely differently, because when we tried it, the way that it works in Dreadball, it just wasn't working quite right. It wasn't giving quite the right results. So completely revamped that, and it works much better now. So you start with that you've got to start somewhere.
Well, almost I think for us it was as intro games. We want to kind of get people familiar, and if you have to spend the first hour learning the basic mechanics, it's almost a wasted hour, because actually the fun of the game is once you get past the base mechanics of moving and shooting into doing the objectives, throwing hand grenades, climbing up walls and sniping your opponent. That's what makes games fascinating. So actually, and I think the big one was, we knew the D6 just wouldn't quite work, because with a gun you want to be able to +1, and you want that more variety because there's going to be more different things doing different things. So I think the decision was when we unlocked, okay, if we go to D8 but keep the basic mechanics, you're going to get people that can just literally pick it up in seconds. Get 3 dice. And the big thing was that we decided, or Jay decided, that the default position, right, was that the normal shot is shooting at someone in cover. And the way the game is designed, there's not a penalty for shooting at someone in cover, that's the norm. So you actually get a massive bonus if you actually get a shot and you can see all the figure and all of its face. And that usually happens in the last go before charging into combat, or if you manage to get yourself into a very good position. So manoeuvring for position, or
is reward.
And that's a great way of doing it, rather than kind of knocking you back for cover. Actually, of course you're in cover. It's rare that you're not. And those are two manoeuvres that were already taken the base. The D8 means you've got so many more pips between 1 and 8 than you have between 1 and 6 to give you good and bad results. But every army and every unit within each army can now have its own stat line. And when we limited that in Dreadball, I think with having the cards, it's dead easy reference. PS5. And the D8 will just give you a lot more choice.
Two more pips makes the difference. And it's interesting because they tried it with D10s as well, and they just don't need that much difference. D10 is four more places to make four more variances in the stats, and you don't need that much difference. So it's like D8 was just the right size.
Well,
it's a Goldilocks sort of point.
You'd also have the temptation to do it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. There's a lot of kind of, because it's there, because we can, we make these differences that don't actually make any point in it.
And if we could have done D6, we would have. But I just don't think...
tried it D6, but it's just because...
You need sniper rifles going to this kind of armour against that guy.
Well,
if he's shooting those two things, that doesn't feel right, that they should both be on a 3.
Well, the thing is that if you look at Dreadball, there's four different player types in each team, or no more than that. Whereas in Dead Zone, there's 2 or 3 times that many start lines on each side. In Dreadball, there's one objective, and both players are doing the same thing. In Dead Zone, there's half a dozen or more, maybe a dozen objective mission types for each army, and they're all different. There's a lot every step through the process. Dreadball is much simpler and more contained than Dead Zone, and so the choice kind of multiplies up every time you have a choice that's 3 or 4 times as many. It multiplies up with the next choice, 3 or 4 times as many, to give you far more variation than you need to put in it. So actually being able to fit it on a D8 is quite surprising. Maybe when it comes to the beta, we'll be on D30.
D72s.
You can get them there. Any more? Who's next? Back. Nick, we were playing before, and Nick decided that he was going to treat the booby traps as normally in the game, if you don't know, there's items of equipment to pick up around the board, and when you pick it up, if the other person has a booby trap card, they can play it on you then, so that the item you just picked up was booby trapped. This means that you never know what anything could be booby trapped. You never know what it could be. In a moment of desperation, Nick decided that the best thing he could possibly do was to run into the middle of the opposing force, pick something up and booby trap it, because that way you blow up and take out several of them in one go. I don't think that's going to be quite...
He blew himself up.
It was, well, he's an orc player, aren't you? Yes. So we've got bomb dogs, so yeah, the exploding more beasts will be... You'll be able to do much that tactic with that already. It would be nice. Well, I'll have to think about that one. Okay, what's next?
Will the counters be upgraded to acrylic at some stretch goal point?
Yeah. We talked about acrylic. We talked about what I prefer from acrylic actually is making them in resin, so you can then make them a little bit almost like little tiny sort of scenery pieces. So we can do the equipment items as we talk about crates or little piles of rubble or that kind of thing. So they can be things you can paint up and have fit in with the scenery. So you have to build them slightly more, because otherwise you'll lose them.
It's like different designs of the map. Is you're just going to be stick with the same design for now? Or?
Well, that's logistics. Yeah. We've got to buy 5,000 of those mats to make it even sensibly priced. So what I've been saying to the chap is, look, I'll buy 5,000, but then as that print runs, I want the same size. Can you offer me some different designs where I take 1,000 of each? I could stand that. I can't do many 5,000 runs because it's just a huge amount for us to buy up, and they are horribly expensive, but they're just gorgeous. I mean, they're absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. So we're definitely doing 5,000, and then hopefully he'll be sensible and realise that we can actually have another 1,000 for changing whatever he has to do, and we can get a couple more designs on it. Because it would be lovely, because they are gorgeous. But, yeah. We'd love to do more, and I think with it being portable, I think a lot of people can use it as war games, particularly the scenery. But the corners, the one that's in there, the corners are rounded off. So that was just a sample cutter we had. They will be square, and they'll come to a point so you can put them up next to each other. So that's going to work well as well. Cool. Should we tell you a little bit about the background of Dead Zone and how it developed? We've been having a little debate for a while about Kings of War and can we make it a skirmish game. Really we want to make a mass combat game, but how do we get people into it? it's a big step to start buying and building whole new armies. And so we realised what we needed was actually an out-and-out, really lovely, simple, elegant board game. And from that was when we started talking about Dead Zone. And I think what we've done with Jake is obviously very early on we realised that yes, we could do a game that's a shoot-em-up, but if you're going to do anything interesting, you've got to have an angle. I think the main angle that we took into was the two major ones was both making it 3D, actually up on the levels, and that's huge. And then resource management, getting your hands on more equipment and using equipment and your team, your squad developing. I like Jake talk about raw mechanics in a second. But what it also allowed for us was a lot of thought about the background and the worlds and what's happening and who the players are, because I think we all want to know more. And it coincided with Guy writing a section about the corporation and how they worked, and the Council of Seven, which are the kind of guys right at the centre of the co-prosperity sphere, that's really where the decisions get made. They are the more powerful. And the enforcers reporting to them. Corporations have their own standing armies, so when they're conquering planets, they'll send those guys in. The enforcers generally will be alongside them. But if the council decides that corporation has broken the rules, suddenly they won't be next to them, they'll be against them. The enforcers are there to enforce the will of the corporation. They're their shock troops. When there's a plague outbreak, they're the guys that are sent in to sort it out. So I've got quite a bit of the kind of background that started to develop. The orcs are immune to the plague. So once a planet is declared a dead zone, which means no one gets in or out, the only people that go in are the enforcers, as far as the council is concerned. No one that's on there gets out. Actually, all the other races will be thinking, cool, dead zone. In the first outbreaks of the plague, they used nukes. They stopped using nukes for a couple of reasons. Any ideas why?
Expensive.
Very expensive. When you go flattening worlds, all these buildings get destroyed, all this medical equipment and computer equipment gets destroyed. Very expensive. Secondly, those planets were then very susceptible to be taken over. You know, cockroaches, things like Zor do remarkably well in places that have just been nuked, and they're finding new strains of the Zor started to come out. So they killed off the plague and unlocked another threat. So what they actually do, put a containment around the planet. They take the planet at its centre, plus all the ones adjacent to it, because they can't risk that it's already moved off planet, circle it. If it breaks into another one, they go the next planet's around that. Nothing gets in or out, as far as they're concerned. The enforcers go in to kill the plague. Only the first and second generation can spread it. The view of the council is, well, if we lose 4 billion on that planet, much better than it getting into the infrastructure and starting spreading planet to planet. However, all the other races and other corporations see these as real opportunities. The orcs are immune, so a corporation will look at a dead zone that's popped up and go, and they medical facility down there. And they've been doing some good research on that.
Okay.
I have some orcs. Send them in, I want whatever's on their databanks. The other corporation will be thinking, we've got some really excellent research on there. I have some orcs, tell them to defend. So everyone else sees these zones as an absolute gold rush. It's a free-for-all. The rebels, dead zone, yes! Medical supplies, military equipment, tanks, etc., etc. Building materials, peoples. Only one of the 5 planets is infected. The other 5 are now cut off, totally cut off from the corporation, the normal laws of the corporation. For them, this is rich pickings. We can trade with them, we can do business with them. They know that there's going to be no problem anytime soon, and they've got to survive. These other planets have to survive for 50 years until the containment protocol comes down and the corporation will come back into the area. So you've got this kind of archaic place within the corporation zone where suddenly the rebels will be turning up, looking for equipment, looking for medical supplies, same as the orcs that have been sent in as mercenaries. the enforcers will be there, but actually they'll be getting reports saying, we know there's rebels in the area. Actually, if you get the chance, take those down at the same time. So the missions can start changing. The plague, there's rebels, there's orcs, let's try and infect the rebels. There'll be good fighters in our army. So they're going to be trying to advertise them into the army. So you're going to have all those kind of four core races. A little bit on background. Hopefully that's quite exciting. Questions?
Oh, yes.
I've been thinking of moving from the games industry, to the game industry over to board games and miniatures. And I was wondering, aside from building up a bit of a portfolio of designs, is there any other good ways to work towards getting into the industry for you?
Portfolio is about your starting point, because you can't go and do a degree in it. You have to have a CV that says, this is what you've done. And that whereas you can go and do a degree with a computer game. Board games, tabletop games.
Actually, computer game design degrees do often cover board games as well, but I know it's not a degree.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I'd say a portfolio is a starting point.
And I've done design and production. On the design side, I can see a path into. How would you get more into the production and business side of things?
Ronnie?
Yeah, just years of bad luck, I think.
Fair enough.
Desperation. I mean, a lot of us do our formative years at GW. And they were the only place in town.
I think Kickstarter maybe a link there, because if you were saying you want to sort of show your production in sort of logistical skills, that is where you do it. If you did something that was, because either you do it within another company, because we both work at GW on one, or you do it within, you do it yourself, but rather than mortgage your own house, you use Kickstarter to see if whatever project you have in mind can be done. Then you have to logistically deal with however many people needing their suppliers of whatever it is. Which, the guy who did Kingdom Death has got $1.5 million he's got to spend on producing a whole load of games, so he's off to China. So he can't talk to those guys.
And I think Kickstarter is making the industry change. I mean, I think this is bringing in opportunities for people to go on their own, for companies like ourselves to come out and say, look, help us fund some of the things that we want to do. All the way through from Alessio getting his funding for Locker, through our first days of Kings of War, through to things like Dreadball, which you can see is 5 months old, and there's a tournament through there with 20, 30 people in it. And I know there's one in Chicago running today with another 16 people in it. So within 5 months, there's a global community of people ready to pick up the game, understand it, and start playing.
It really accelerates the whole process. I mean, something that without Kickstarter would have taken a couple of years to get to, in terms of both release of product and in terms of awareness and community, is it can be done before the box is even in the shops, which is a bit weird. But kind of cool.
There's 2,500 people.
Yeah, on Kickstarter.
Of a community that was out there. While a lot of those were sharing games with friends, so you were able to come out and know there was other people going to play it.
And even while the Kickstarter was on for Dreadball, people were buying URLs about Dreadball and setting up websites and organising leagues and all of this kind of stuff. Before the Kickstarter even finished, so I mean, when the Kickstarter's done and everyone's got the game and everyone's playing it, it just hits the ground running. So it's a very different kind of world from 10, 15 years ago, when you just go, we've done this game, it's really cool, does anyone want one? And you've sold none. And you're going to build up from scratch.
And the only magazines that people read were wide ones. So if you had an independent game, how did you get it spoken about? All the magazines have died. So all those methods of communicating with a lot of people. So we had 35,000 views on Dreadball of our video. So, and what's interesting is we've now sold 3 times as many through independent traders as we sold through the initial Kickstarter. So some people, if you couldn't drop $150, which is a lot of money, you still saw the video, you liked the idea of the game when it came out. Okay, I'll spend a bit of time finding out about this, I'll have a go at it. and there's a community there, so you think, well, I'm not buying another game that no one's ever going to play. And so I think those are the things that this is enabling us to unlock, and that it means, and as a company for us, it's a good launch method. But I'm actually even more proud of the 7,500 copies we've sold through the independent sector and through the independent stores and local hobby stores, and doing things like Kick-Off. It's going to allow for 30 quid people to pick up and try the game. Will allow it to really build into what I hope. You know, when we're here a year's time, there'll be 60 people playing, and in 3 years' time, there'll be 200 people playing. All right, come out now. So it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean,
any plans to do any kind of almost like a countrywide or a league for Dreadball and things like that?
Yeah, I think it starts. I think this is one of the first. Either this is one in itself, but over the summer there's going to be a nationwide Dreadball tournament.
There's heats, there's national heats.
North, east, south and west. And there's North, east, south, west, Scotland, Ireland. And they're starting to run. I don't know if this is one of the first heats, or this is just an independent one. But yeah, for sure, it's in North in Scotland, one up in Stockport. There's definitely one in Ireland at the Gathering in next month's time. So absolutely, I think because it's supported, we'll have 12 teams out by the end of summer. We're going to definitely do a couple more just because it's fun to do sometime after that. Yeah, it's all back a week now. I thought you'd told me that we were doing that. But, okay, we need 2 more teams, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see it being great system. I think the community will pick it up and run with it, and they've done such an admirable job keeping Blood Bowl going all these years without any support. And I think people are also realising it's not an either-or decision. You can play Blood Bowl and Dreadball if you enjoy sports games, and the team's 15 quid. So I think a lot of people are going to be able to do both, and we'll run twice as many teams. The sport we do next, it's the temptation, isn't it? I think we may revisit Dreadball first with an extreme version, which is Fight Club. Basically, if you've seen Real Steel, at the beginning they're in the warehouses and later they end up in the arenas. It's the other way around. It's where the plague go and play. There's no reference. You win on that?
Yeah, the idea is that we've got seasons 1, 2, season 2 just come out, season 3 obviously. Season 3 Ultimate is the pinnacle of the big arena games where it's all fancy razzmatazz and showbiz. It's kind of a bit like the sort of big American wrestling kind of thing, where it's all the bad guy comes out in his black cape with his black hat and the whole crowd boos and everyone has a little theme song. It's all like that, it's all really big showbiz stuff. But a lot of people think that's not the real sort of heart of the game, and so they're playing in disused warehouses without referees, and they're playing a kind of serious, rather sort of grungy Fight Club as a version of it. It's the illegal boxing equivalent of Dreadball. This is that's what Extreme is. So we go through the whole of this sort of the tidy, shiny, happy, well-publicised stuff, right up to the pinnacle of that, and then we drop right back down. We go into the streets and we go, this is the seriously unlicensed version. So what this has a different team structure. It's much more kind of mercenary based in effect, where you get sponsors who pull together, the backers pull together teams from different places, so you get much more mixed teams. You'll get themes like convicts, plagues, infected mutants, aliens, that kind of stuff, but you can still mix and match other people from different ones, so you'll get very varied and quite interesting mixtures. But also you're playing what is amounts to basically the same game, but without any fouls or referees, so anything goes. So it's going to be rather nasty, and certain types of teams simply won't work because they won't be able to cope with the fact that nobody else gets sent off for stomping on them. So it works quite differently when you take away the fact that there's a referee. But yes, it's basically the same kind of game, but amped up in terms of nastiness.
I don't think a lot more selection about
the whole team selection is a very different kind of way of working.
That'll be a major factor. I think in Dreadball, pretty much your team is pretty much what it is. It's a little bit of choice, a little bit of the MVPs, but you pick which team you quite like, or one or two, and then you play it. So you go, okay, I'm playing the Forge Fathers. I know what type of game I'm going to play, and there's not that much variety in that play. And that's great, because I think when you're going to run a tournament, you're going to come through all these different types, and you're going to want to play how are you going to cope with the Jugman speed. You know, they won with 2 players the other day, because they still can move the ball, etc, etc. So that's great, clean tournament play, very balanced, very rigid. But in actual fact, there's other times when some of the fun is picking your team, spending hours going,
and the anarchy of the body count is quite fun as well, where people are getting...
Particularly if it's a team that you're building up over time, and then when you start player dies, you have to pay to have them resuscitated.
Yeah. There's a different style of, basically a different spin on the same basic concept.
And again, because mechanics are known, you can go straight in. It's season 4. People know how to play.
Yeah.
And would that be another Kickstarter as well?
It probably depends. It depends if we can see that it'll run. Then yes, if we can see, okay, you know what, there is 3 seasons in this. If it's season 4, we might just put it out because I think it's a big enough community. And we'll have to look at it and you know, get Jake's final. Okay, look, this is what I can do with it. If it's 2 teams, then there isn't enough material. If there is material, then we look at it. So look,
I just mentioned 4 teams.
Okay, so you can see where Jake's pushing it towards.
Can you shed some light on the season 3 teams, like what sort of play style they'll be? I know you've got the Z that are really small.
The Z are a bunch of cloned monkeys that are wearing sort of Las Vegas versions of Roman outfits. So they look kind of very razzmatazz and a bit strange, but they're quick, and their main thing is you can't tell them apart, or at least the referee can't tell them apart. So they often end up playing with more on the pitch than they're supposed to. They're mischievous and get away with a lot of stuff. They're not individually quite good, but there's lots of them, and they'll end up with more than normal on the pitch. What else have we got? Teratons.
Everybody's favourite.
Who teleport, which I think kind of is enough to think about in terms of how that works. It's very hard to nail down people who teleport.
Can they teleport with the ball, or is it a case of
Yeah, that's going to be fun, isn't it? Anyway, so that's Teratons. There's the Nameless team, which is an interesting mix because it's got 2 kinds of guards. It's got guards who hold you in place, and it's got the other guards who come and punch you. So they've got kind of slightly funny way of playing, but they're about mixing in, working together in little units, much more than the other ones. They're kind of they like kind of functioning as paired teams to go and jump on people rather than as individuals. But because you can mix the balance of, as you develop a team in the league, you can pick and choose which ones you buy more of. You can tinker with the way the team works, whether you get more of kind of the cat-free ones or more of the thumpy ones and so on. But they have other players as well. The Asterians are interesting because the Asterians are, in effect, people think of them almost like a season 1 team because they're fairly straightforward. Each of the seasons, the teams are getting more challenging and more extreme in the way they play because people have got more experience in how the basic game works. They can deal with weirder and more peculiar play styles. So the season 2 teams are generally more extreme and odd than the season 1 teams. The Asterians look almost like, in some ways, like a season 1 team because they're quite straightforward, which is why they're the ones I'm least happy with and the ones I'm working on most, because I don't like that. I want them to be a bit weirder. So I think I've kind of worked out how to break that normalcy, and we'll have something a bit peculiar there. But not quite sure on that one yet. But they've got all 3 player roles so far. We've got the models for them, at least partly done. And they're done. Right, okay, they're done. So they're all kind of, they do a bit of everything, but I've got a few ideas for how they can be unpleasant and different. But we'll come back to them later. Question?
Are we going to see more of the new races that showed up in Dreadball in Dead Zones at Kickstarter, for example? So you've got the Teraton Brawler in there, but are we going to see, say, a Nameless guy, or maybe some of the Z, or what have you?
Some of them yes, and some of them no. I'm not sure that the Z are really appropriate, because what sets them apart and how they work in Dreadball isn't really going to work in combat in the same way. Yeah. People keep saying we're going to have Judge One. Well, that's possible. The Nameless, definitely. I think basically I'm more always interested in inventing cool new bits and bobs and cool new alien races for the background. And we've got some the mercenary floating jellyfish guy. Cool. He's a very nice model. But I didn't having had the concept turned down for Dreadball, it turned up in Dead Zone, which is quite funny.
When I say no, he just hears not now.
It wasn't my fault, honestly. I didn't believe that they had done it. Anyway, so yes, we'll get more aliens in. We'll get I think
the Rebs is a national home.
The Rebs have got. I mean, the Rebels are the disenfranchised people who've been stood on by the corporate boot at some point in their corporation's expansion, and so this is a complete mixture of all manner of different cultures and races. So they're great. I mean, they're full of. We've already got several aliens in them to start with, and there's some more that we've had made, and we'll see later in Kickstarter, and there's plenty more ideas on the slate for where we can go with that. I think that's what I think is really fun, because it tells you not only is it a cool thing to have a model of, it's a cool thing in the game, but it's also a really great way to explore the background and to deal with the what. It's a huge universe. We've got half a dozen races. Well, there should be dozens of races. Why can't we just have the floating jellyfish guy, the Teraton teleport?
With the there can be thousands of races,
yeah.
But how many of them can actually conjure armies that can fight up against the corporation? Okay, the Forge Fathers can, because they're just as tough and just as dirty as the corporation is, and technologically they're more advanced. So they will sell the corporation weapons. When the corporation take them apart, they'll explode. And they won't sell them their first generation weapons, they'll sell them the second generation weapons. They'll sell them the weapons that aren't quite as good as the ones they've now got. So they know how to cripple them. So the corporation can have a choice. Buy the second best weapons in the universe and use them to keep everybody else under control, or try and develop their own and then know that the Forge Fathers will sell them to other people. And the Forge Fathers, for example, are a race that can take them on their own terms and deal with them and not back off. And if they see a dead zone, they think, we'll have that. We know that planet's got 50 years, let's mine that one to within the ounce of extinction. You've got things like the Orcs that have now were under the boot of the corporation until they said, you know what, we're pretty good at fighting. We're not going to work for you anymore. Unless you pay us. And they just set up on their own shits, bandit, they're tough, they die, they just come again, So each of the races, the Asterians are the distant, sat away, watching what's going on, view the corporation with as much horror as they do the Zor, as they do the plague. Because as far as they're concerned, they're all infections, ruining the universe. Do you have to go?
That's good. Kill some zombies.
Good luck.
Excellent job.
Don't scream.
Well, going back to the background again for the Dead Zone.
Yeah.
What about the people actually living in the Dead Zone? Would there be like some sort of places for survivors?
I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, because obviously they've got to try and survive themselves.
Yeah,
so.
and there's kind of the planets that aren't infected, where there's life going on as normal. The one that is infected, and there's going to be three answers to that question. The first is, in some parts of the planet, particularly if the enforcers get there early and stop the spread, Australia type, if it spreads in Europe, it may well be able to live out the next 50 years in blissful isolation. And if it's a self-sufficient community on some part of the planet that does not get infected, it will just be cut off from the corporation. They might get lucky, the Orcs might not turn up and take everything, the Forge Fathers might not come, take all their resources and sell them to slavery. The plague might not get to them. Generally where the war zones are, where the actual fighting is going on, which is where we're going to be concentrating on, there's going to be two types of people. The plague either turns you into a plague, kills you stone dead, or turns you into a mindless zombie. And the mindless zombies will end up being their rank and file when it turns into a warpath game. Huge hordes just literally trundling across the battlefield, controlled somehow by mind control. But you'll have basically, that's the guys in front, these are the guys that are there. and then we think they may well make a feature within this Kickstarter. Could be a possibly up the stretch.
Just another quick one. Is there any plans to release background books for all your various projects? Like
Who would like background books?
Stick it in your book.
Yeah.
No, a separate one. You can have it as an option.
I'm thinking of doing a very small stretch and asking Guy, Jake, Alessio, James, all the writers that we rate that are around at the moment to write a small story each, and then just give it away free to every backer. Put it up as a novel online as a $4.99 online.
Free? Outrageous.
And we do try and get it in the rules, but it can end up taking as much time. I mean, there's certain amounts of story. If you look at the Kings of War rule book, there's a big chunk of it in that.
If you have it in a separate book, you've got more space in the actual rule book for rules.
Well, and then as we get into translations, you see, if you have a big background section and you go to translate that, it suddenly becomes a real bugger of a job. So I think ideally a small stretch, but I think every time I've ever done one of these and asked people want more background, and I thought the best way with this one, with so many interesting little stories that could be teased out, would be just to do a kind of a collection of short stories and put it out as a novel. Simply so we can get more stories out there, and I think if it gets in the rule book, it's the bit that always gets cut right after the hobby section. Hobby section goes first, so everyone thinks it's a great idea and tries to do it, and it's just the hardest section to write and photograph and do. And the second one is the background. So we will certainly have a good chunk of the story in the front of the book, of the overview. But I think what makes background really readable is stories from characters' points of view. Like with the Twitter campaign with 6 Alpha and Professor Simmons, they become characters and they're going to get sculpted and folded into one of the scenarios. So, because I think that's the way it becomes exciting. And that doesn't really sit in a rule book, but it sits very well as a collection of short stories. And you know from them, whichever one we write, Jake will start thinking about the one he's going to write, and the next thing I know, suddenly there'll be a guy on the sculpt list. Because of course he'll end up, can we sculpt this guy? Because he's going to be really good in his story, and we need a model of him.
Territory ninjas, definitely need them.
There we go. Teleporting
ninjas, what could be more dangerous?
Teleporting turtle ninjas.
So teleportation is going to carry over from the Dreadball to the dead zone for the Terratons.
Maybe.
Terratons are taking a life order, don't they?
Well, you know, that's what happens when you let me invent cool stuff. Everybody loves it.
So yeah, I think we're going to do a lot more on that, and then not to come back. I think it's one of the next areas for us to go out properly and in a meaningful way.
Yeah,
do it.
Nick, you've asked that question already.
No, it's a different one.
A different one, right?
So I'm pretty sure that how plastic enforcers will come in.
Yeah.
Is part of the Kickstarter or something else?
So one of the things that we've, having done the whole skirmish from the mass combat game, and the mass combat game is hundreds and hundreds of figures with vehicles and soldiers and everything else. We've also split that the resin plastics do your elite units, where you're almost going to get a Remy sculpt, brilliantly posed and a fantastic figure. As many times as we ask Remy, he builds the model he wants to build and then cuts it up. So there you go, multi-part plastic. And you say, no, it's a model. Like a metal model, it only goes together like that. When it goes together, it looks astounding, but it's not multi-part. So we gave in gracefully and said, right, we'll make those clip together. When you're playing a board game, you want to get them out and get them going. A la Dreadball, away we go. A la Dead Zone, away you go. Actually, they'll also double up because they're so characterful. The engineer, the sniper, how cool do they look? You can't do that in multi-part hard plastic because you can't do the cloaks, you can't do the pose. So let's make those the elites, the specialists in the war game and the system. And then to get your rank and file, the buildings are allowing us to really unlock this, because these are going to be hard plastic buildings. We can then do vehicles, that straight line, and we're going to do all of the warpath base units in hard plastic multi-pose. So you'll get legs, bodies, heads, arms with weapon choices. So you can pose them. There'll be as few pieces as we can get. You don't need 20 pieces. They don't need to be golden beam and standard figures. We want them to be war games figures that you like our zombies, but they're a perfect mix. Nice choice of heads.
There's always this balance between having enough choice to be able to make lots of different things with it, and having it in not so many parts that it doesn't take you 2 hours to make clear. There's always that balancing point, and you have to tinker with whatever you're making. It's not the number of parts that's appropriate for an enforcer isn't the same as for a zombie. So
and we'll have them, but I think and we're going to make the multi-parts so they're absolutely cut at the same place, joining at the same place, so you can real kit bash, which we really enjoy. So I think when we come to the Warpath figures, that's what they're all going to be. We may well, if this Kickstarter runs on and on and on, end up doing some of those within this Kickstarter. So one of the expansions to this could be the scenarios about zombies in the game. Now, they will not be on the plague side in this scenario, they're kind of just mindless ones, but they'll just get in the way. You know, they'll be blowing up and falling over and swarming over. God, I've spent a whole turn killing all these zombies now. We could well end up doing the hard plastic zombies during this Kickstarter for those. You know, Jake will write a kind of expansion pack that can go in the compendium about how to play with random NPCs, a bit like now play with, say, the scientists. You know, we can see some scientist figures being used without those guys surviving. Go over and they can be objective points and things like that. So it does give them an opportunity, like with the coaches and the cheerleaders and Dreadball, to just go a little bit off-piste and create some exciting little things. And I think the enforcers, probably the heavily armoured chaps, may well feature if it runs and runs and be the obvious place to go. It's never been done.
Are you looking at having any type of vehicles? It's the one thing I was really mentioning. So it seems quite up your idea.
It is, I suspect it might be another dead zone. Swarm. Could be a dead zone, and I think
Squeak. That's the big one.
that's the only one. Squeak is Swarm. No.
Squeak is German.
Swarm is
Zorm is Zorm.
They're probably featuring a incorporation to the races. If it goes bananas, maybe we'll run into this one. We haven't got enough. There's enough stuff in here to.
It's one of those things that there's so many different things that you can do with them that it's almost like you want to go in a slightly different direction. And we've already got 6 different factions for this already.
You want to do them in
and
completely.
then you've got the possibility of doing zombies, and the possibility of doing survivors, the possibility of doing more mercenaries and all that sort of. So you go, well, I don't know.
Plus a book, plus scenery.
Hang on a minute, we can go a completely different direction with them, do more stuff, let's worry about them when we can do them properly, rather than just tag them on at the end. And I think that would be doing them a disservice, missing out some of the cool stuff.
Well, either you don't do the ones you've got in this one properly. So this range of scenery, I know you've all seen this. Paul there painted this stuff for us. I gave him a few tiles the other day. A few didn't come out of the mould properly in the resins. We've all got these clip points. This is where your connectors go. And there literally will be, if you want to keep them flat in your game, the hard plastic connectors will allow you to build them for each game. Probably you'll want to have a couple of connectors glued in so you've got mini structures, and then as you come to play you can build a tower. Put another one there, and you suddenly will, within 3 or 4 little mini blocks, have a set of scenery. This is a bit more like how you'll have it. While it looks beautiful on that board through there, you probably won't have it when you're playing Dreadball in that way. What you'll have is more blocking line of sight, more barricades. What did I say?
Dreadball. Well, at least it was Mantic then.
Yeah, exactly. I'm learning. With this, got it started as well. With this Kickstarter, this is going to be the core tiles, floors, ceilings. You can see it's all of a theme, kind of mildly militaristic, mildly high tech. They turn up on a planet. That's what we start unlocking with. We start building habitats out of it. We kind of see that in the centre, and then from there you can go. Let's damage it. So take these tiles damaged. And a little bit of damage scenery goes an awful long way in bulking out this. So if you want to build a whole city, you'll be able to go there. Let's take it even more military. So you've got barricades and proper fortifications around, so you can go there. Things like the engineered stuff, a landing pad that will allow you to build high-tech pieces of kit. And then we've even got some we might have overgrown with alien kind of vegetation coming over the top of it. But because they're all going to be off 3x3, or 1.5x3, it's kit bashing time. So if you want to run your theme this way or that way. In future we could go to different planets different settings, perhaps create another 5,000 if you owned it, max. And while it'll be 3x3, you'll be able to mingle them, you will be absolutely able to start that whole thing up again. Get the core tiles, get some what's the walls, what the floors look like, and then damage them, put more vegetation in them or whatever. So that actually different players can merge to create truly awe-inspiring things. All I know is if we build cool stuff, the people that are out there that are talented will take it on and do things that is just jaw-dropping.
Even without the sort of terrain ninjas that you see on the internet, with the variety of these different sets, I mean, I'm already thinking you can have something where you set up your terrain and you say, right, this is an encampment, and this building, you make them all mostly out of the kind of normal core set. But you have a building that's been burnt out, that makes them damage things. You have another building that was the biolab that's been half broken into and has got things growing out all over because they've been messing with alien technology, and it's kind of started growing out the petri dishes and is all over the building. And you can kind of start telling a story very quickly with even just this terrain, and that's without putting any kind of furniture, as it were, inside. So you've got Megalabs and beds and crates and whatever. So I think that it'd be very easy to set up a table that really tells a story about a place and gives you a sort of an environment in which is not just a bunch of boxes that you're running around. It's, you know, it tells a story about a place and a style of setting. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to go bananas. You know, with guys like Antonosity then able to start with.
Yeah.
Paul, what was it like to glue and paint? I mean, you've got some very damaged resins.
Yeah, even without the connectors or anything like that, because of the angles you've got on the side to join in, they're really easy to put together, and they all just go on each other. You know, at first I was a little like worried what goes with what, but then when you realise that it just all matches in the style you do what you like.
And I think whatever hobby skills you've got, you'll be able to take it. Great ones will be able to take this and build it on, and others will.
Well, it's a shame those resin miscasts on actual proper bits, you know, from laser burns and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Inside it, but that would be easy to hack up yourself and do.
But that's the thing.
Right.
If you take the tiles we've got, cut them in half, damage them yourself, your terrain will go twice as far. You know, these complete flooring pieces are very, very plastic and size intense. If you want to, you know, kind of ruin Stalingrad building, $100 worth of screws, and you will be able to build an incredible amount of ceiling.
But before I weathered them up, even with like grey spray and like the yellow stripes, with all the detail that's on them and that kind of sci-fi look, that's all you need to do. And you buy grey spray, or just do whatever, and it works perfectly.
One more, and then I'm going to throw Jake out. I'm going to still Kings of War for those of you that are in there for this. So, with a hand up at the back.
Who do I have to sleep with to get a carry back full of the damaged resins?
Damaged resins. Stuart Gibbs, and I've actually slept with him 3 times, and this is all I've managed to get out of it. So I've been quite mean about it.
I was going to say I want to know that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try to.
We're going to find last year.
Yeah, do that. I'll keep talking while we do that.
Thanks, folks. See you soon.
Thanks, Jake. Thank you. It is. I was going to make the first sprue in plastic. I was actually just going to tool it. And for one thing and another, it's just not been able to happen. So we did the resin ones. But I would hope to here to just have piles of resins, so I just come play with them. But you can just see here. There's another one. I think it must be in the other room, but just so quickly they just. You put another one there. You've got a different looking building. You put these 2 like that. Suddenly you've got a military checkpoint. You know,
One of those built.
More than one of these. This is. It would make a complete cube. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's going to be 6 tiles per thing. It'll be the 5 and 2 halves, plus the connectors. One connector sprue per 3. And they're about 25 quid or 15 quid for 6. But like I said, when you only need 2 of those each side to make a watchtower. So you'll be able to make a watchtower and the base that sits opposite it. So we're just finalising out the last little bits, but it's seriously looking like
the ladders and the
accessory
sprue.
sprue.
They're the ones that are on the Kickstarter now.
Yeah, that's the accessory sprue that these are all the bits that you add detailing, barrels and crates and everything. So it covers both for a game and takes you more gaming table.
They've got all the right clip bits in as well.
Everything clips. So the ladders, when we first did them, just did them as ladders. Now actually they have the slots in them, so they cover 2 of the holes up. Banging lines and always be running up the side of buildings, no matter which way you have the building. The clips are there.
I was wondering, can you shed any more light onto the...
Can you walk me?
I saw you kind of wandering and then shot up again. That's up.
Well, I thought you were talking about other stuff.
Yeah, we were. That's why we waited for you to kind of change.
Yeah,
One more
can
question.
you shed any more light onto the Mantic IP tie-in from a while back?
The other one, the other license we take up?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably possibly the last one we're going to do until we get it, because we've got so many cool things that we want to do with Kings of War and Warpath universes that most of our efforts are going to be concentrated around those. I suppose we can give you an exclusive, can't we? It's a company, it's a license for Mars Attacks, which was that movies 997. So at the beginning of the year they phoned us up during the Dreadball and they said, we love what you've done with Dreadball, we think it's brilliant, can you take a license off for us for this? I said, yeah, you know what, we'd love to do that. It's huge in America, we're going to do it as an absolute slapstick joke kind of game, very simple, really cool, and we're going to have Mars Attacks, aliens running around, bugheads.
Oh, aliens! Not chocolate bars.
Not chocolate. Mars Attacks. Stickers defends Mars Attacks. So yeah, so that's going to be the IP license. It's a little bit fringe, a little bit fun. Yeah, and it should be exactly fun. That's the way we're going to handle it. Should help in the US. We're trying to get our footprint over there. The Americans kind of remember it. I'm trying to think, probably like we remember Blake 7. Yeah, I mean, it's actually a lot bigger than that. If you said to American Blake 7, they were the first.
Or Italian.
Or Italian, yeah. But Mars Attacks came out in the 50s. It was the company that made baseball cards, and they made these very violent aliens turning up, killing things. It was really one of the first sci-fi, certainly one of the first mass sci-fi products. But really, the first sci-fi product that ever hit the States is where the archetypal aliens all come from. Remember in Back to the Future, when he's reading that comic, that's the Mars Attacks comic. And needless to say, all the fun police did what they do, as always with anything they don't understand, and banned it, which made it went really popular. And all the kids weren't allowed to bring it, and so it's got reinvigorated over in the US, so we're picking that up.
It also refit the cards,
yeah.
from what I remember. So do we expect miniatures that are going to be like that?
Yeah, absolutely. What's on the cards? Yeah, House on Fire. What was the one I was looking at yesterday? It's on our kitchen table, which is... Anyway, it's a body that's been speared on a railing fence. And the card is, speared on a railing fence type thing. The aliens are just happen to have guns and
giant ants as well.
Giant ants, giant spiders. Yeah, and he's got a comic that's running at the moment, so we're going to crossing between that and picking up things. So that's that. That's the genuine first scoop. There should be an announcement out in the next week or so, written by Todd. So we really look forward to working on that. Other than that, obviously we'll now switch over. Pardon?
We'll be picking up the dinosaurs next.
Aliens, Martians, sometimes.
Yeah, and then we're going to concentrate as much as we can on the Kings of War and Warpath universe. There's so many good things to do with that, and Dreadball and revisiting Kings of War soon and what have you. So let's flip the questions over. We obviously had Locker earlier this year. Let's running games and that over there, and bringing his insane love of chess to the Great Unwashed. Fancy chess, isn't it? And then also obviously we've got big Kings of War summer coming up. We've actually done a lot of work on the Brazilians and the... Well, everyone says it differently.
There's not two people that say this.
And the Heroes of Legends book. So they're all coming. I think in the next 3 months we've got Orcs and Undead getting revisited with werewolves, chariots and so on and so forth. For all of you that are trying to get your friends into it and let them see the light and come to the one true path, the 2-player set is going to be 40 quid for the next 3 months. You get 100 figures in there, rule book, dice, everything you need to get going. We're just trying to really encourage you to try, for goodness sake, 20 quid each, and you can have a proper good war game. So, please spread that word out. Leslie did a lovely book for us last summer, which has all the army lists in it, and then we've got Ogres the month after, and we have Humans the month after that.
So if you want to ask any questions about those 2 books, or if you want me just to talk you through them a little bit, I can tell you what's in those books, the supplements. Shall I? Kings and Legends, not Heroes and Legends. I think Kings and Legends is the is the first one. The Kings and Legends book is a collection of living legends, so great heroes of the Mantic world. We try to give every race that we have in the rulebook. We both take, each race in the rulebook has one living legend. What we do is we take that one, and kind of the rules are the same, because we don't want to have a book that tells you A and another book that tells you B. So they're the same rules. They have some extra bits, like they allow you to tailor your army a bit more, so they kind of allow you to modify a bit the army. If you have Morgoth, you can do things that only the Morgoth army can do. But other than giving you options for your army, the actual rules for the model doesn't change. But there's a lot of background. And it's been written by Andy Hoare, which wrote quite a few books for Black Library, used to be games developer, and I guess worked with me, etc. So he wrote we did it together. So he wrote the background, and I wrote the rules for Kings and Legends. So each of the characters in the rulebook are kind of revamped, but also for each of the races we have developed a number of other living legends, from 1, 2, or 3 extra for each army. So you have new characters, new heroes that can be used to, different levels of power. We tried not to go overboard. We kept it quite controlled. We didn't want to do Morgoths. We wanted to do hero level guys, champion level guys. Again, trying to make sure that Kings of War is not about having a single guy taking on an army. But these guys are cool. They help your army out, but they don't go around on their own killing armies in some ways. So in Kings and Legends, as well as those, there's also when you get to the humans and the heroes with the humans, there's actually an entire ogre list. So the ogres that in the normal book are in the humans can be used separately as an army of their own. But of course you can do that already with the rulebook if you want, because the rulebook has heroes, ogres, and troops. So you can absolutely field an ogre army with the human from the rulebook. But this gives you some extra choices, some extra troop types, some extra characters. So you can actually make a kind of a more sophisticated ogre army, and you have you've seen the models. Where are they already shown?
Yeah, no, of course. If you just go to the other room, find a guy called Stuart Gibbs, you all punch him once in the face, and say, "Show us more pictures of soldiers." Eventually, might get the message that the ogres are nearly finished being painted. We have models here, resins, I'm sure, and it would be nice to show them to many of your Kickstarter backers who would actually like to see the models. There is one shelf of the painted stuff. In there, we've got human paladins, sisters, sisterhood, mummies, trolls, werewolves,
Goblin Mints.
and goblin mints, which is very nice. Yeah, okay, that's in there as well. So there is one shelf worth of stuff. If Stuart Gibbs wasn't quite such a hoarder, we would have had about 3 times as much, some of it unpainted. We're a little bit wary these days of just letting images come out, and that's the way we are, but there's just some beautiful stuff in there, and we should have had more, but it will be all hitting the updates and our blog over the next 2 weeks. So
you need to get that out before people do their Kings of War
surveys.
Yeah.
Totally, it's ridiculous, and that's where I did bend his ear a little bit because
they will all be up before the end of the survey.
Okay, yes they will. We're all going to go as a group after this, and anyone's interested, we'll all stand in front of Stuart Gibbs, and I'll show you who he is, and he has all the pictures, and I think people would rather see greens, they'd rather see anything. The only defence is that the guys have been picking Kickstarters for Dreadball for the last 2 weeks and getting the trade stuff out, and one of those guys is our photographer. So next week he will be picking nothing but taking lots of photos. I don't know if you saw the Rebs one that was up yesterday. It looked gorgeous. Those models came in Wednesday. They finished the last of the Kickstarters Thursday, and on Friday he was photographing all day, and that was all the photographs he took. So literally, the photographs come in and are up on newsletters within 6 hours.
So we can talk about the other book, the bigger book,
How do you say it?
the massive one, well, I say Basilea.
Basilea, I think.
So Basilea.
Basilians, someone else says. Yeah. Some people still say Celestians.
Basils. So yes, the Basileans Legacy, I believe, is the latest version of the title, which is a big, really big book with a lot of stuff in it. Really, if Kings of Legends is not huge, it's got a lot of stuff in it, but this is considerably bigger. It's got, for a start, obviously, is mostly the biggest part of the book focuses on the Kingdom of Basilea, and effectively gives you the human army for Kings of War, the specific characterful, extremely good army, good in the sense of good, neutral, evil. These are the good guys. They are very, very good to the point of being a bit extreme. They're really too good. You know, in terms of roleplay, they would be lawful good. They're kind of all a bit intolerant, all a bit. Anything that is not in agreement with their principles, their dogmas, needs to burn. So the book describes, there's a long section on the background that tells you all about the history, the role in the history and in the battles of Mantica, written by Guy Haley, which wrote a lot of the background for us in the rulebook. And so there's a first kind of introduction which tells you all about them, and then there's an army list. And as an army list is something that is new for Kings of War, an army list of that level of kind of detail, because it gives you, imagine a bit that it gives you information, text information, background information about a unit, a type of troop, and then the rules, and then the stats. So it's quite a neat, quite a chunky army list. So effectively, between the background and the army section, it actually has quite a lot of new troop types in there, and they tend to be, as I said, mostly super paladin types. They tend to have a mix of extremely good, motivated infantry, and they're supported by kind of legions of angels of Celestials that actually. Do we have any of
Who's seen the angels?
I haven't seen it today.
Have you ever seen them online?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So imagine grand troops of shiny knights, knights of shiny armor, and fanatical zealots of good, supported by winged angels flying overhead. So that's the image of the Brazilian army. It's classic fantasy, high fantasy, super paladin dudes that want to burn evil and go on crusades and different things. So that's the angle on the Brazilians. And that's, as I said, is the core of the book. However, we also, in the book, we thought we needed to put quite a lot of other stuff. So the book has become quite an interesting project in itself. It's got a lot of stuff. So as well as the extreme good, which is the Basileans, we have put in, almost like as an appendix, 2 other army lists. These armies are not as big as the Basileans. They are similar to the ones in the rulebook, that kind of level, size of pages, and the presentation is more like the rulebook one. But to kind of balance the extreme good, we have an extreme evil. So we have actually the abyssals, as in the devils of the Mantica world, because they live in the abyss. The abyss is obviously like very, very reminiscent of hell, as portrayed by in the Divine Comedy by Dante. There is this kind of all the circles with different levels, different type of demons live in every level, and they are really. Like kind of a mirror image to the Basileans. These are extremely good, these are pure evil. Yeah, there is no subtlety to this, it's just literally black and white, very much so. We try to make them as devilish and satanic as possible without trying not to get burnt by the church in reality. So as much as possible, it's clearly a reference to the myths of Christianity in a way, but without going too deep, too close to it, hopefully. So these are the 2 extremes. In the middle, well, I'm Catholic. I clearly have to bear the guilt.
Yeah, you get the guilt about it.
Have to bear the guilt for it. Eternal guilt. In the middle, of course, there's the other force, which is neither of the 2, and is about balance, nature, harmony. So we have a forces of nature force in the middle, which is pixies and fairies, of course, and trees, and walking trees, and tree hugging, druids, all of that kind of, And there's also some, because it's about nature, it's about balance. There's a strong elemental thing to it. It's almost like somebody thought that people could use local pieces in some of this. But so there's a component of elementals and elemental magic to go with the nature of forces, which have, you know, pixies. Sorry, we've got sylphs for air, we've got gnomes for earth, we've got salamanders for fire, we got what am I missing? Water naiads for water. So there's classic elemental type fantasy creatures. So those plus actual elementals, monsters. There's a lot of wild, you know, creatures of the wild, monsters that normally are not in armies, but with this natural force they would come to battle. And of course, because the way Kings of War works, you can use them as allies in other armies, of course, particularly because they're neutral, so they are easy to ally with people. So that's the structure of the book, but that's not all. There's more. There's more stuff that went into this book.
You can tell there was a conversation that went on here, can't you? Can we put that in an essay? What, in this book? Yeah, well, yeah. And that? What, in this book?
Yes, it was. I mean, clearly, it's also because of the Kickstarter and all the things that have to be made because of the Kickstarter. And but it was a good chance of actually adding magic items to the Kings of War, the entire system, and spells. So, because there was a strong demand of having a little more sophistication in the magic per se, and the number of magic items for Kings of War, two things happened. One, I created 6 spells, which any spellcaster that has the Zap spell can, instead of using Zap, pick one of those 6. Anytime you cast a spell, so you can change. During the battle, you can go, I'm now, close range, I use a fireball instead of the Zap. And now really close range, I'll use this, sword of light. You go, and I hit you with my sword of light. Or from far away, I can, throw blade winds and things at you from a distance. So it gives a bit more flexibility to all the wizards that have the Zap spell. So Zap effectively is the lightning bolt equivalent in this, but you have other different things you can do. So that is a very simple system, and you pick the one you have. But it's also it applies to all the armies, so it is balanced across the board. The other thing is magic items, and that was interesting because what I've done with them, from the public, from the last tournament, when we spoke to people about magic items, there was a very strong message of, we like the game, we like how it plays, we like the magic items are little things that give you a bit of color, but there's no game-deciding big sword of doom that kills everything. So, can you please not do that? Was the strong message we got. Please don't go, 100 points of doom and everybody takes it. So we kept it up to 50 points, comparably low power items, there's a lot of 5-pointers, 10-pointers, where you have to finish the artist and you're missing a few points. So there's a lot of that, there's a lot of characters, a lot of color. I'm sure that some of them are better than others, of course there will be, but it always happens, but hopefully no big power that will destroy the game. And the question was, of course, how many should there be? And what I've done, I went online, I don't know if many of you have seen it, but I asked the public to just give me ideas. It's like, well, what would you like to see? And I got inundated by using hundreds of different items. So I had to kind of pick and choose and pick the best ones. I tried to be very democratic, and if every person gave me 10, I tried to pick one from each guy, kind of thing, roughly. Of course, some people get more, some people get less. But the funny thing was that in the name of the item, oh my god. Shoot it! Shoot it!
Sounds good.
Right. Basically, in the name of the item, I tried to work in the name of the guy that suggested it, or the pseudonym, the online pseudonym. So, say for example, Hellebore. If he suggested 10 items, and one was the Crown of Shininess. Now, in the game, it's called the Hellebore's Crown of Shininess. Whenever the name was fantasy enough to be worked into the system, maybe just tweaking some words and letters.
Bob didn't get so many magic items.
Bob didn't, but I would have, maybe spell it as B-A-U-U-B. I would have tried to fantasize the name and put it in. So, some of them works well, some of them are a bit more funny. But again, try not to take it too seriously. It's good fun, and people will go, oh, that's me. That's me, yeah, that's my item. But the number is a question. So how many, because I had hundreds, how many is too many, how many is too few, was an interesting choice. And we asked around, and there was no agreement at all. So at the end, I kind of went, okay, let's pick the ones that I think are the best. I picked those, and then I counted and go, okay, how many are these and how many are there in the rulebook, just to have an idea. In the rulebook, I counted 29 items. And after doing this selection, I counted those menus like 29 items.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, we have a message from a magical thing that tells me, yeah, okay, that's fine, 29 is the number. So, to recap, the Basileans book has a big chunk of Basilean history, big Basilean army list with lots of information, lots of models, new models, etc. 2 appendixes, so it's got the neutral forces of nature and the evil devils of the abyss. And then has got 2 more appendices, a little one about spells for zapping people, and quite a big one on magic items, 29 new magic items. It doubles the amount of magic items in the system at the moment. And again, they're available to everybody, so clearly they're perfectly balanced, because anyway, everybody can have them, so clearly that's perfect balance. And that's it. That's the book.
So it should be coming out. I think over this summer, we really have got kind of 3 months for Kings of War. I have to thank anyone who's been playing Kings of War for their patience, because we have taken a bit of a journey with Warpath coming out and then Dreadball coming out. We haven't given it tons of attention. We did do the book last year with some goblins, but there's 25 plastic sets coming out this summer. And it's going to be a massive big shot in the arm, and we really do want to kind of... And I think the big thing is, although the Dreadball is a bit of a distraction, in terms of getting people to try Mantic products and try Mantic games, it's changed the world entirely on that front. Suddenly, it's okay to yes, it's still a dark, dirty secret, but it's an okay dark, dirty secret. And I'm really hoping that as we go out this summer with all the Pathfinders, with the shows, and everything that's coming, some great new products. There's a beautiful piece of art that sits on the front of the Basilean book. We've got the heroes, and the fact that so many people have contributed to it, play tested it, we've done tournaments. People can really sign up and realise that it's not either or with Warhammer, it's both. Like with Blood Bowl and Dreadball, it's both. They're a hobby. Ours is different. Dreadball is fast, it's quick, it's short, it's over in an hour. You can try 2 or 3 different teams. And with Kings of War, what's the second army you've always meant to buy? Well, you know what? For 100 quid you can do it. And you can play it. And you can see if you like it. And if you like Warhammer War, you can use your army in Warhammer. And vice versa. You can bring your Warhammer army over and you can play Kings of War. And I think in the hope in the next 3 months, we're really going to spend a lot of time and effort promoting it and showing it off. And I hope it will help you guys go out there and get people to try it, get your clubs to try it. And there's a free download rulebook on the internet. And it is a colossal long-term 3 to 5 year project to get a war game system set up. Not a skirmish game system, a war game system set up. And I'm hoping this summer will allow us to push on there, and then next year we can come back and do huge big giants carrying howders and undead war mammoths and all of the really big cool funky stuff that will take Kings of War on another level again and make Alessia lose some more hair.
There's not many left after Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Is the style of the Basilisk, is it Basilisk? Is that style of book the first part going to be the way forward for the races?
Don't know at the moment. I think we did that because it came out of the Kickstarter. We definitely want more background. We definitely want more. What I was thinking is we could make them about 60 pages long, hardback, 30 quid each. Charge double online. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I think we've got a lovely rule book. It's got everything in it. We'll do that. We can see another one that could be the abyssals pulled to the floor for and balance and some more rules in it, and then at some point we need to clean it all up. But we don't. I think we run this out until it becomes unwieldy, and then boil it back down and say, all right, here's a new rule book. I think.
So I was going to say, that was going to be my question. When you originally released Kings of War, you were saying that's it for 5 years.
Yeah.
So when you come to do the second edition, will these 2 books be boiled and get it one? But also, will you retire your generic Kingdoms of Ben Army list, because obviously that's hooking in a lot of historical and defensive elements, because obviously now you're going to have 3 human armies, or will that be in there as well?
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think we need to.
I like the Kingdom. I like the Kingdom of Men army being a. I think you've got to remember it. The Kingdom.
It's so generic. It's
correct.
Very welcome.
Yeah.
That's what I think. It's almost. This is our first human army, and the abyssals I think will be a satanic army. But I'd love to do another human army.
What's a satanic?
Okay, bad, evil. But we've got to kind of. I think there'll be other human armies that are just human, you know, different flavours, and I want to make the whole idea that the humans live alongside elves broken up. And if they're up in the north, they wear furs. If they live down the very far south, they wear robes. And it can allow us to go, yeah, you've got a medieval roller tin, but at the same time, you can go the other way too. So I think in 5 years, I don't think anyone would begrudge dropping 20 quid on a new rule book. And what we would have then the chance to do is, right, you know, how do we plan the range, how do we structure it? Let's see this Basilean book, and maybe that becomes a template, and we have 3 or 4 source books and 1 rule book, or whatever. But,
I think that's kind of where the opposition have got at the moment, because you're getting at the book, for example, it then becomes a long cycle. The rule books getting over, it just annoys people.
I don't think it's
playing with that.
Yeah, and it is a nightmare from a company point of view, because then when you want to change your rule book, if you want to make some radical changes, suddenly you invalidate all of the other supplements, which kind of binds you or forces you to kind of, like you say, kind of upset some customers and go, oh, your book is broken, by the way. It's like,
but that was a really refreshing thing back in this war. It's like, that's everything you know. It's all there.
And I think when we do that second edition, we'd come back and say, that's what you need. That's where it is. There is. This is how these bind in, or don't. We've folded them in. You know, but I think we will. You know, we'll look at a 5-year window and say, right, if we can get there when we get there, what do we want to do with it? And you know, as always, we'll talk. We'll put the betas out there. We'll play it. I mean, the game is beautiful. You know, it really is just a fantastic.